I know it was YouTube recorded music, but still some great songs to sing. Text is found in the 86th Psalm, verse 15. 86th Psalm, Psalm 86, verse 15. I want to tell you a story, though, first about a birthday party, one like you have never been to, nor have I, for that matter. It happened in Honolulu, believe it or not, early in the morning. I've told you before about a Baptist preacher by the name of Tony Campolo. His politics are somewhere on the left end of the spectrum, and he drives me nuts. But he loves Jesus, and so I guess I can forgive him for that. So he does love Jesus with a ferocity that can't be met by many. He was leading a conference for pastors throughout the Pacific Rim in Honolulu, and if you've ever done that kind of traveling, you'll know that jet lag and time will mess you up something awful. And he was awake at 3 in the morning and went looking for a place to get coffee. He said, as long as I'm awake, I want some good coffee. That little diner about 2 blocks off the Waikiki Beach, open all night, little hole-in-the-wall type place. But it was pretty busy, and the only place to sit was at the counter. He was drinking coffee at the counter at 3:30 in the morning when a whole group of prostitutes walked in to get their coffee at 3:30 in the morning, and the only place to sit was around him at the counter. Well, Tony did what Tony does and got to talking to him. If he meets you, he's going to find out your mama's name, your daddy's name, your birthday. He's going to find out stuff about you because he's going to pray for you. That's what he's going to do. And he discovered that one of the girls' birthday was the next night. She was a 39-year-old prostitute, and she lamented that she'd never had a birthday party. So after they left, Tony talked to the owner of the diner, and he said, yeah, they come in here about every evening, about 3:30. They've been working all night, and they want coffee. And Tony arranged with him to have a birthday party ready for the next night at 3:30. He paid for it. Cake, some streamers, some other things. And word got out on the street. And by 3:15 in the morning, the place was packed. All prostitutes. Well, the girl and her crew came in. And there was Harry, the owner of the diner, and his wife holding the cake up that they'd made for her. Said happy birthday on it, and her name and everything. And everybody said, happy birthday, happy birthday. And the lady, the tears poured. She couldn't believe it. And when Harry handed her the cake to cut it, she said, well, I've never had a birthday party before. Can I take that home to show my mother that I've had a party? Show her the cake? And so a few minutes later, she left to take the cake home to show her mother. And Tony did what Tony should have done, what any Baptist preacher should have done. He led all those prostitutes in prayer for our friend Alice. That was her name. Now, some would call that mercy. And still others would call it grace. I've been in the audience when Tony tells that story. He cries every time he tells it. Now, one of the things I want you to understand is that mercy is a powerful thing. In 1740, Charles Wesley, one of the founders of the Methodist Church, wrote a song called, some of those guys wrote some of the great hymns of the faith that we still sing in our Baptist hymnal. We baptize them and move them over to the Baptist hymnal and we sing them. The Depth of Mercy hymn was written, and it's been rearranged, and the music changed a little bit, and renamed Mercy Still. So that's how old this hymn is. 1740 is what I want to read you the words to that hymn before I read the text of our sermon this morning. Charles Wesley wrote, depth of mercy, can there be mercy still reserved for me? Can my God his wrath forbear, me, the chief of sinners, spare? I have long withstood his grace, long provoked him to his face, would not hearken his calls, grieved him by 1,000 falls. I, my master, have denied, I afresh have crucified, oft profaned his hallowed name, put him to an open shame. There for me the Savior stands, shows his wounds, and spreads his hand. God is love, I know, I feel. Jesus weeps and loves me still. Now incline me to repent. Let my sins lament. Live in grace and be restored. Weep, believe, and Christ adore. Depth of mercy, can there be mercy still reserved for me? God is love, I know, I feel. Oh, Jesus weeps and loves me still. Is there mercy still? There is mercy still. There is mercy for me. Psalm 86 is a prayer of King David. In the part of the text that is the part of the psalm that is our text in verse 15, David comes to grips with attacks from every side. He is being attacked on every end. I liken being king of Israel to being the pastor of a Baptist church. Have you ever noticed? No matter what the king did, he couldn't please the people of Israel because they had a gripe about something. You know, if it wasn't this, it was that. If it wasn't that, it was this. If it wasn't that over there, it was this over here. It didn't make any difference. I want to read Psalm 86:15. I was going to read the whole psalm, but I think I'll just read verse 15. Your assignment is to go home and read the whole psalm. But I want to let you remain sitting because you've been standing a lot today, and it's a very, very short verse. Verse 15. But you, Lord, are a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and mercy and faithfulness. You may just pay attention closely. I was going to tell you to be seated, but you aren't seated. I'll share 3 things with you. Just 3 quick things. We won't be long, I don't think. The first thing that I want you to see in this psalm is that God is always good and He is always ready to forgive. Always. God promised from the very beginning that if we sinned, we would die. You know, as I look at the news, and I watch it every day, we can't help it. If you turn on your computer, you get it. I mean, if you're on Facebook, you get news on one side. If you're over here, you get news over here. If you turn on the radio, you get the news. Even on the Christian radio station, you get the news. And some of it's good, some of it's bad. You find the radical left and the radical right. Neither one of them I like very much, and they both fighting each other. You feel everybody accusing everybody else of that. People getting shot. I mean, this week in Atlanta, a 4-year-old girl was shot by a stray bullet in the foot. And another woman, an 18-year-old young woman, was killed in her bed asleep, doing nothing but sleeping. And 2 gang members got after each other and fired rounds like crazy. You know, if they're going to carry the guns, they all get some training so when they fire at somebody, they hit what they aim at rather than everybody else. And you got to wonder, is there any mercy? And in verse 14, just before we get to our text, David says, arrogant foes are attacking me. Ruthless people are trying to kill me, and they have no regard for you. He's talking to God. And that's how I see the world today, that they have no regard for God whatsoever. Now, here's the thing. We think Buddhism came into existence because the guy that would become the Buddha looked at the world and said, with all of the suffering and all of the struggle and all of the evil, awful things, there cannot be a good God who cares. And yet God said, I do care, I do love you, but I told you from the very beginning, if you sinned, you would die. And if God promises that, if He's going to be true to His character, then that's the deal. That's the sentence. Then He comes along and says, because I love you, death has to happen. Because I promised you it does. You sinned, it does. But I am going to send the perfect God-man to be your sacrifice and to be your substitute for you. Alexander III was Tsar of Russia. from 1881 to 1894, and he was a nasty guy. He was well known for his hatred of the Jews. He would order them rounded up and moved just because he didn't like them. He would sentence people. He was a harsh, sentence people to Siberia, forever. I've never been to Siberia, and it's not a place I really want to go, ever. I saw a tour somewhere. You got to go tour of Siberia. Who would pay money to go to Siberia? I don't know. People with way more money than they got sense, I guess. But one day he sentenced a prisoner, to Siberia. And here's what his simple assignment said. Pardon impossible, to be sent to Siberia. His wife, Maria Ferdinova, was the opposite of him. She was well known for her care for people, her concern for the poor. She loved the Jewish people. And so she acquired that document somehow and moved the comma. Now, I made a big point of where the comma was a minute ago. She moved the comma to where it said, pardon, comma, impossible to be sent to Siberia, period. You see the difference? The moving of a comma changed everything. And that is what God has done for you in Christ. From pardon impossible, comma, to be sent to Siberia, period, to pardon, comma, impossible to be sent to Siberia. It makes all the difference as to where the comma was. And the comma for us came in about 36 AD when Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Died on the cross. That's where the comma came. And God moved it for us. Yes, there is mercy still. The second thing I want you to see is the Heavenly Father, our Lord and God, is slow to anger. The phrase abounding, it's such a wonderful word. Abounding is an adjective. It means very plentiful, abundant. When our little Lewis, if you met Lewis, how could you not love Lewis? He is so sweet. If you ever meet him again, he has a white, perfect heart right here on his chest, which made him less expensive than other dachshunds because having that white made him imperfect, and that's okay. It's perfect for us. When he was a little puppy, not even 6 months old, he swallowed a paper clip. They had to put him to sleep to try to get it out, and he reacted to anesthesia, and nearly died. He was swelling up. His lungs were filling up with fluid. We were supposed to leave that day for Texas. We ended up going over to an emergency center and putting him in, and it was like $9 million to put him in there, and we were going to leave him there. They were going to keep him. He said, we'll have him a whole week, you go away. We finally got to Birmingham. We tried to leave Atlanta at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you imagine? Going west on 20. We got as far as Birmingham and fell asleep. We stopped. Nancy called through the night. I don't think she slept 2 minutes. She called through the night to see how Lewis was. He was doing good. The next morning, we were going to go on, but she called one more time, and they said, hey, Lewis is better. You need to come get him. To make a long story short, there was no way to board him. We had to go and get him. So we turned around and drove back to Atlanta. Now, here's the thing. I would pay money for this every time I had a chance. We walked in there. They went to go get him. They got Lewis, they brought him out into the hallway, put him down, and Nancy said, come here, Lewis. And that dog, you would have thought she was offering prime rib steak. Every ounce of his body wagged. And I don't know who was happier, him or Nancy. But that's the definition of abounding love. It knows no ends. It's abounding, it's unending, it's abundant. And that's the kind of love your God has for you. He has always had. He has it for the little girl who lives down the street, the single mom who struggles, the gangbanger who doesn't even like himself, the jihadist, the illegal immigrant who's been lied to. Most illegal immigrants that come to this country have been lied to before they get here about how to get here, what to do, and all that sort of thing. Now, they don't need to be here. But they've been lied to too, and that abounding love is for them. He loves Democrats. He loves Republicans. He has it for the one who has run from God, who wants to do nothing. He wants to do nothing but wrap those in His arms and hold them and love them and remind them that He loves them and that there is mercy still available for them. King David reminds us through God that though God has every reason to be angry, He is slow to anger. Boy, I wish it could be said of me. It can't. So there are certain things that we all have buttons, don't we? We all have buttons, don't we? Well, I have one or two, and you push them, and you're going to find out that I have them. I mean, you'll just let me. It'll let me off. And I'm better now. I'm better. You didn't want to know me 30 years ago. I'm better now. I really am. But God says to us that He is slow to anger. You see, you can't say God is love if you don't understand God's wrath on sin. For they are the two sides of the same coin. They go together. Like peanut butter and jelly, ham and eggs. They go together. You can't have one without the other. It's just that way. God is in His glory. He is both loving and wrathful against sin. It's His wish to grant mercy through Christ. And it's offered us to Him. Now, we all know, anybody in this room not know who Richard Nixon was? All right, just making sure. President of the United States, the only president in history in more than 250 years to resign from office. In disgrace. Not because of health, not because of need, but in disgrace. He lied, then he doubled down on the lie, he lied some more. And all that was going on, the crazy thing about all of that is all he did was run himself out of office. He was going to win the election. There was no way on earth a Democrat was going to win that election. It just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't in the cards. It wasn't set to be. And of course, in disgrace, he was behind his doors for a long time. But then Vice President Hubert Humphrey died. And a lot of presidents, former presidents and vice presidents and others came to the funeral. And Nixon came, and there was a reception at the White House. And people avoided him like the plague. They wouldn't talk to him. He would walk up to someone and greet them, and the conversation would stop, and people would walk away. By the time Jimmy Carter was president. Now, you can say what you want to about Carter's policies and his politics and all that sort of thing. And I disregard some of those, but he was, I think, and is a decent man. He was walking into the office. He was president. He was at the White House. He walks in, and he starts talking to people, and he sees Nixon standing all by himself. And he turns and makes a bead for Nixon and reaches out and grasps him with both hands and says, "Welcome, Mr. President. Welcome home." Well, Newsweek caught it. And they printed it, and they said if Nixon was looking for a welcome back into the world of the living, Jimmy Carter gave it to him by welcoming him to the White House for what he did. That is mercy. Nixon had done nothing to deserve it. He did nothing to gain it. But Jimmy Carter offered him mercy anyway. And that is what God offers to us. Yes, there is mercy still. Finally, the thing I want you to see today is that nothing is out of the reach of God. How many times have I had someone tell me, "Well, I can't go to church because you don't know what I've done." You know what? They don't know what to do when I look at them and say, "I don't care." And what's more is that God already knows. The fact that you don't go to church doesn't mean squat to God. He already knows what you did. In fact, He knew it. When Jesus became that sin on the cross, He knew it. And still Jesus died. He knew you would avoid Him. He knew you would run from Him. And He knew you would reject Him. And still He died. If you were to take the entire 86th Psalm, especially verse 15, and write a synopsis of it or sum it up, it would have to be this: no thing, no one, and no problem is outside of the realm of God, and that is because He is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in love, mercy, and faithfulness to us. Now, if you've read the newsletter already, this is a freebie. If you haven't read it, then you need to go home and open it and read it. But here's the gist of it. When I was at Baylor, one of the great things that I really enjoyed was chapel. Now, you had to have 3 semesters. And today, when they go in, I noticed you have to take your ID card and wave it in front of the thing and get checked in. But then, you had chapel checkers. You had an assigned seat, and the chapel checker would take the roll, and they would check it off that you were there. Now, there was no tests. There was no, but your behind had to be in that seat more often than it was out of it during chapel. And we had some of the great, we had Billy Graham, we had Gabe Criswell, and if you don't know who he was, pastor of First Baptist Dallas for 40 years, one of the great preachers of the 20th century. We had some of the greatest musical groups. We had Andre Crouch and the Disciples. We had Truth. We had second chapter of Acts. Some of you going, second chapter of what? You know, they were a music group. And we had other people, because sometimes they would call it chapel and sometimes they would call it forums, twice a week. And we had President Gerald Ford speak. We had Moshe Dayan, the former not Prime Minister, but Minister of Defense of Israel. We had Dale Evans. We had, I can't remember who all we had, but we had all kinds of people. It was always interesting. But one of the people we had, now understand, no tests, so people did their homework. During the 45-minute chapel meeting, they'd do their homework, they would sleep, they would pay attention. And Billy Graham's preaching and they're not listening. But we had Corrie ten Boom come twice. And she also spoke at the church I was a member of. And listen, when Corrie ten Boom spoke, nobody moved. Everybody listened. And you know who she was? She was a young woman when Nazi Germany invaded the Netherlands. Her father was a dedicated Christian man. And when a Jewish woman asked for help to escape the Nazis, he said, God's people are always welcome in this house, and he hid them. And he became a part of the Dutch underground to get Jews out. And when it was found out, he and 30 members of his family were taken and put into prison camps. Of those 30, Corrie ten Boom was the only one to survive the war. And she spoke until her death with a very, very deep accent. Never got to be clear of it that I know of. And I remember 2 things she said. One was, one I've told you before, there's no hole so deep that God is not deeper still. Now, she always said that was part of Jesus' promise to never leave us. I don't know about you, but Nancy and I found ourselves in some of those holes. And it was always wonderful to find